You know, when we think of the United Nations, we tend to picture this one giant monolithic organization. But the truth of how it actually gets work done on the ground, well, it's way more complex, and it relies on a massive, hidden workforce. Let's dig in.
So let's start with the big question, right? How does the UN actually deliver aid or run its programs out in the field? The answer is definitely not a huge army of direct UN employees. Instead, it's this vast, mostly invisible network of thousands upon thousands of other organizations. To give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, just look at this number. In 2019, just 1 year, UNICEF alone funneled $2.2 billion through its partners. And that's just one agency. It's an absolutely astronomical figure that shows you just how much the whole UN system relies on this model.
And that money didn't just go to a handful of big contractors either. It was spread out among 9,310 individual partners. That number really shows you the true size of this hidden workforce. I mean, can you even imagine the challenge of managing that many different relationships? It's huge.
Okay, so what is an implementing partner exactly? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine a UN agency as the general contractor for a massive global project. They hire specialized subcontractors to do the actual on-the-ground work. Those are the implementing partners. And they can be anyone, local governments, NGOs, universities, you name it. They're the ones actually carrying out the projects and delivering the services.
And this chart really shows you the incredible diversity of those subcontractors. I mean, look at this. Local NGOs and government bodies make up over half of all partners. But you've also got other UN agencies in the mix, plus big international NGOs. This brings up a really critical question. Should you manage a small, local community group using the exact same set of rules you apply to, say, a national government ministry? That right there is the core of the problem.
And you don't have to take my word for it. A 2021 report from the UN's own internal watchdog, the Joint Inspection Unit, or JIU, they put it perfectly. This quote just hits the nail on the head. This standardized one-size-fits-all approach is starting to crack under the pressure of trying to manage such a wildly diverse group of partners.
So that brings us to the major cracks in the system. Because even though this partnership model is absolutely essential, that same JI report found some really significant strains and serious challenges.
One of the biggest problems is something the report calls the cascade of risk. Here's how it works. The funding and the responsibility flows downwards. It goes from a donor to a UN agency, then maybe to a big international NGO, and finally down to a small local group. The problem? All the risk, financial, legal, reputational, it all gets passed down the chain too. And it usually ends up landing on the smallest partner, the one with the fewest resources to handle it.
Then you have all these powerful pressures from the outside. UN agencies have to follow the official sanctions from the UN Security Council. That's a given. But they also face intense pressure from major donor countries to follow their own separate unilateral sanctions. This creates a huge conflict, and it really challenges the UN's core principles of being neutral and impartial.
And it gets even more complicated. There's this practice called negative earmarking. Basically, it's when a donor gives money but attaches a really important string. The money cannot be used for certain groups of people or in certain areas. And these restrictions are often for political reasons that the UN itself hasn't sanctioned. Just imagine trying to deliver humanitarian aid with those kinds of handcuffs on.
You know, the challenges aren't just external. The JIU report also pointed to some major roadblocks inside the UN itself. Responsibility for managing these thousands of partners is often scattered all over the place, across different departments at headquarters. And with no single point of contact, you end up with fragmentation, weak coordination, and a serious lack of accountability.
Okay, so it sounds a bit messy, right? But the good news is the report doesn't just point out problems, it offers a real blueprint for improvement. It lays out a strategic plan for how the entire UN system can fix its processes and strengthen this absolutely critical way of working with partners.
The JIU report really maps out a clear path forward. First, develop a common definition for partners so everyone's speaking the same language. Then, adopt a strategic, risk-based approach, not a one-size-fits-all one. Align the policies across all the different agencies and, this is a big one, seriously boost coordination on the ground at the country level.
And hey, this isn't just talk. We're already seeing some real progress. A fantastic example is the UN Partner Portal. The idea here is to create a single window interface for any organization that wants to partner with the UN. This thing aims to slash the insane amounts of duplication and paperwork, making the whole process way simpler and more transparent for the partners.
Another really commendable initiative is HACT, which stands for the Harmonized Approach to Cash Transfers. This is another key effort to get different UN agencies on the same page, making them more efficient and building trust in how they handle funds transferred to partners. It's all about making the system work better.
So, after all this talk about portals, policies, and procedures, let's zoom out and get to the real takeaway. Why does fixing this complex, behind-the-scenes system actually matter to, well, everyone?
It matters because achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, ending poverty, fighting inequality, tackling climate change, all of that is fundamentally impossible for the UN to do alone. This isn't just about making the bureaucracy more efficient. It's about the success or failure of the UN's entire global mission.
And the JU report makes this connection crystal clear. It reminds us that Sustainable Development Goal number 17 is all about revitalizing global partnerships. The goals themselves say that these partnerships are critical in this effort. The success of the whole 2030 agenda really hangs on getting this right.
Ultimately, it all boils down to this simple but really powerful idea. Better partnerships just equal better results. A system for managing these thousands of partners that's more streamlined, more fair, and smarter about risk, that translates directly into more effective aid reaching the people who need it most, all over the world. And that leaves us with one final crucial question. This whole thing is a balancing act, right? How do we, as a global community, build a system that has really tight financial oversight and accountability, while at the same time giving our partners the flexibility and the speed they need on the ground to solve the world's biggest, most urgent problems? That is the puzzle the UN is working hard to solve right now.